Welcome agents. Some time ago I made a video about why 1.8.3 has not been fixed, which included a Twitch stream clip where Terry Spier talked about this. Now in the same stream I believe, Terry also talked about the Dark Zone, and one of the things he mentioned was how the devs have learnt their lesson, and he talked about matchmaking within the Division 2. Today I want to go over what he said exactly and why this may be hinting at the possibility of solo, duo and group Dark Zone servers. Of course, I will give you my opinion if this were to be confirmed. As always, if you enjoy this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if we can hit 225 likes, that would be absolutely awesome. With that in mind, let's do this. Okay agents, so let's start off by looking at what Terry Spier had to say during the Twitch stream. If I can find the Twitch clip, I will add it here. Terry said this when asked if solo, duo and group servers will be an option within the Division 2. Yeah, we have thought about it in fact. I can't comment on the plans. We've only made a public statement that there will be a Dark Zone in the Division 2. We haven't shared anything beyond that. But yeah, we have a thought about this. Of course, matchmaking is something very important to us in the Dark Zone. We have learned a lot from the first game about the Dark Zone, and we are applying a lot of that information. Whilst this quote doesn't exactly say they are moving towards a solo, duo and group Dark Zone options, this is something Terry Spier did hint at, and has been hinted at by the devs when they talked about the current state of the Division, and certainly the Dark Zone within the Division. Now, one of the problems with the Dark Zone is its unfair design. The servers allow everyone to access them, whether they be a solo or group or duo partnership, and this has created a very toxic atmosphere where solo players get constantly farmed and generally have a really bad experience, and groups are rarely challenged, causing them to seek other ways to entertain themselves or get that DZ fix, usually by toxicity and ruining everyone else's experience. Now, if you've been subscribed to me for a long time, you will know that I used to always go in the Dark Zone, and I've always been completely understanding of the concept of the Dark Zone. It's ruthless and it's unforgiving, and I've always been behind that. It was created to be unfair is the argument. Now I have no problem with the DZ being unfair, but when it comes to groups of 4 or more people going one step further in multi-grouping, standing outside and farming whoever walks out, that's not how I think the Dark Zone was meant to be played. I'm sure the devs didn't decide to create an experience that anyone who was not playing in a group was going to hate. Terry Spier goes on to talk about the DZ and its unfair nature by saying, but you also have to remember though, the Dark Zone is supposed to be a place with no rules. And while I understand that, hey, matchmaking is the kind of rules we can have, let's also bear in mind that you go in with the knowledge of it being unfair. You make your own fairness. And that happens to be, well, if you have more people, you have an advantage, plain and simple. Now, I understand how Terry Spier explains what the Dark Zone was created for, but I don't think this is actually the right approach, and I don't think that's the approach they wanted to take with the Division, which is why they've made the changes they have. You can create suspense and brutality without groups of 4 farming solo players. The fact that before Rogue 2.0, which by the way has to be the worst change they've ever made to the Division, out of any change they've ever made, you could open fire on an unexpected victim. This created suspense and brutality the Dark Zone should have. Of course, you know, they removed that part, making the Dark Zone kind of sound like wait for non-rogue players to tell me they want a PvP, giving me time to prepare myself like all other PvP modes zone. I can see both sides of the argument when it comes to Rogue 2.0 and the way the Division have changed the Dark Zone. But my opinion on the Dark Zone is very simple. It has to be ruthless, unforgiving and dark, but there are ways to create this without having 1v8 multi-group farming servers. The prospect of solo, duo and group servers in the Division 2 is surely what everyone wants, or at least the vast majority. I for one would spend a lot more time in the Dark Zone if this change was made right now in the Division. But certainly for the Division 2, this has to be something they've considered, and at this point they may well be working on, which is why Terry Spier was possibly hinting and certainly talking about it in the stream. Now, as a day 1 solo player, I've been through everything the DZ has thrown at me. Threw at me, but it's by far the worst it's ever been, and it's lost its identity with Rogue 2.0. It would appear from Terry's comments that they will be going back to a Dark Zone similar in its unforgiving nature to that of when the Division was launched, which is a good thing actually, I think, at least in my opinion. For duos and groups, this has to be exactly what you'd want, surely. Unless you get satisfaction out of farming people who cannot fight back because that makes you feel like you're in control and good at the game. To those people, I say look inside yourself, because mannerisms like that come from traits in your personality that are not pretty at all, and certainly not what we want in the Division. Of course, I imagine for 99% of you who do duo or group up, the idea of entering a server and knowing you are matching against squads with the same numbers keeps that dark and unforgiving and brutal aspect, because you are not safe. At this point, groups of 4 in the Division go unchallenged most of the time because most people are playing solo and not grouping up. Solo, duo and group servers have to be implemented in the Division 2 for the Dark Zone to succeed. Some of you might be listening to this and saying there should be both PvE and PvP servers in the Division 2 as well. This argument came up a long time ago, and unfortunately it's not going to happen in the Division, but it could well happen in the Division 2. Now, this was something I was all for in the Division, and I don't want to get into it in today's video, but it is something I still think would be a good idea alongside the solo, duo and group server option. So agents, what do you think? Leave your comments down below. As I have said, I think the idea of having solo, duo and group DZ servers would be a great addition to the Division 2, and it should fix the farming unbalanced experience we have right now. Now, I say it should because I'm not sure the devs will ever be able to stop people from joining the same server as solo players, for example, but PvPing together. The devs have not been able to stop multi-grouping within the Division, so it's likely they won't be stopped in the Division 2. But let's not ponder on that problem though. The devs have made a real effort to address the current state of the Division within the Division, in the Division 2, and I would hope after 3 years of feedback, they have found a happy medium. Sometimes I wonder if the devs decided to treat the Division as a playground to test things once 90% of the player base kind of dropped off to prepare themselves for the Division 2. I guess we'll never know, but if that were true, the devs have no excuse to get the Dark Zone right within the Division 2. Before we end this video, Terry Spier said the following in the Twitch stream as well when talking about the Dark Zone in the Division 2. We kind of want to stay on the cutting edge. I really think the Dark Zone was on the cutting edge. It was a unique experience and we want to recreate that uniqueness. Now, we are going to learn more about the Dark Zone in December, which of course I will be covering in as much detail as humanly possible. But Terry suggests here that we are going to be getting a unique experience in the Division 2. It's likely not to be anything like what we have currently. With that in mind, I am considering making a video shortly about the 5 most important DZ changes needed for the Division 2, and I want you agents to leave your ideas below. I have a few myself, but if I include yours in the video, I will give all credit to you, of course. I think having solo, duo and group servers within the DZ is one of those important changes. Most other games that have a PvP experience have the option to play solo or in groups. Of course, you all know Fortnite, which has this option, but even Black Ops 4 has this option currently, where you can play a mercenary playlist where you're not able to basically squad up. You have to go in solo. Surely then, this has to be something the devs can implement in the Division 2. The only reservation I'd have about the solo, duo and group idea is you lose the sense of achievement should you overcome, a group if you were a solo player, for example. The thing is, this used to be a reality when hipfire strafing was a thing, and time to kill was a lot lower because we didn't have overpowered cheesy gear sets and stamina wasn't such a problem. You'd simply spec into firearms and you would strafe, and if you were good at hipfiring, you could melt groups. I've actually got videos where I first started uploading for the Division being in the Dark Zone where this happened plenty of times. So if the devs could create a Dark Zone where this was again something that was possible, unlike now, it's a pretty impossible unless you're a god, then I wouldn't mind not having the solo, duo and group options. However, I just don't think the devs are going to go back to how the Division Dark Zone was, and instead we'll choose to do something different and more balanced. So agents, let me know what you think in the comments below. I thought I'd talk about this today because it's not long now before we learn more about the Dark Zone in the Division 2. With that in mind though, I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot about the DZ in December, just like how the other game aspects are currently being drip fed to us. I think we will likely learn whether it's one big DZ, like the Division, or multiple Dark Zones like I predicted and made a video about. We will likely learn where these Dark Zones will be, the lore behind the Dark Zone, and we may learn about being rogue in the Dark Zone for the Division 2. Other than that, I don't think the devs will give us too much more, at least not until next year when the beta will be coming out in January 2019. As always agents, your support has been truly amazing. My Survival Island speculation video on Roosevelt Island has done really well with almost 30,000 views, and that's just testament to how awesome you agents are. To all the new subs, thanks for joining the agents. Of course, your support in the comments and in your thumbs up are truly appreciated. And with that said, until the next one, Epic out.